Hi there, and welcome to the Shoot Lower Scores Masterclass, and in fact, the kickstarting of that masterclass. We're boiling it down, and we're giving you the 10 actionable steps that you can do right now to start improving your game, and that makes the biggest difference the quickest way possible, and gives you actionable things to do in order to see results as quickly as possible. And we're psyched about doing this, and I'm happy that you're here, because this is the first step to shooting lower scores. My name is Max. I've been a golf coach for the last 15 years, and through those years, I became very good at helping golfers swing the club better and hit the shots better. But I realized after a couple of years that there was something missing. I was seeing them improve on the range and the short game area, but the scores out on the golf course was not improving. And maybe, just maybe, you watching this can relate to that 100%. Feeling like you're improving as a golfer, but the scores are not improving. And that is why I started my journey kind of figuring out what was missing and what's the way I can coach players to reach their actual results. Because I understand that when you come to me as a golf coach, you want better results than the golf course, right? I mean, we kind of taught that swinging the club better is going to get you those results, but that's not necessarily true. And we're going to take a closer look at kind of the holistic approach to scoring and get you those lower scores. Now, a couple of years ago, I met my now really good friend, Chris. Chris's story is completely different. He came from the business world. He started playing golf at a young age and then had a pause for a couple of years. And when he was 30 years old, he had a family with small kids. He was running his own department store. He kind of figured it was time to pick up the game again. But he wanted to be as good as possible. And that meant qualifying for the Open. That was his goal. And that meant for him to go from an 11 to a 1 in order to get to be able to actually qualify. Now, he wanted to find a solution to that problem, and no one really wanted to help him. No golf coaches were able to help him when he came to them and said, this is where I'm at, this is where I want to go, and you need to help me, or I would like to have your help. So when no one else could help him, he kind of figured out himself. He got himself from an 11 to a 1 in 3 years, making a big difference in his game without changing his swing, without kind of putting any time into practice whatsoever, because he simply didn't have the time. He had too much else to do, but he got the results he wanted. Chris then wrote the book Shoot Lower Scores, and Chris is the guy I'm working with to improve my coaching and to help golfers improve their scores, and we're very happy that you're here. This is the crash course. This is the kind of kickstarting all of it to help you reach your goals as quickly as possible. So let's get straight into it. We're going to cover mainly three main things. Number one is that we're going to talk a little bit more about the fact that golf is three things. Because if we don't understand the fact that golf is three things, and if we're actually kind of still stuck in one of those things, which tends to happen, we're kind of limiting ourselves on reaching that plateau. So we're going to cover the three things that golf is, and of course there are a lot of nuances to it, but in general, there's three things to it. We're going to share some of the success stories with you, players I've been coaching, Chris has been coaching, who have seen some great results, some amazing results in a very short amount of time. But also remember that I've been helping hundreds of golfers with this by now. And big steps, small steps, we're all getting lower scores. We're all improving our handicaps, which is the important part to me. And of course, we're going to get to the 10 first steps, the 10 actionable steps that we're going to start doing right now to help you shoot lower scores. So we got some big things going on. Before we start, if you want some exclusive updates and make sure that you're keeping up with everything related to the Shoot Lower Scores scoring system, maxpersongolf.com/newsletter is where you can sign up for our newsletter and get everything you need and so much more. As soon as something new happens, that's where we're gonna message you first. And of course, YouTube and Instagram, you're gonna find me for some exclusive content at maxpersongolf, just to give you even more of that kind of feel for the system, more of the behind the scenes kind of thing, and of course the more of the story behind it all, and some thought-provoking stuff to help you get to your goal, because that is the main point of all of this, helping you reach your dream goal and your dream handicap. And of course, if you're getting help from the course and if you're finding this helpful and you got people around you that play golf that you would like to shoot lower scores as well, please share the course. Let's take golf to the next level and improve our games together. As I always say, it's a lot more fun beating someone when they're playing well, but you're playing better. So if you're playing your friends, you want them to play good, but you want to be even better, right? So let's get them to the course as well to help them play better. But of course, you're going to be the best of them. That's our goal right now. That's this between me and you. And let's get into it. Golf is, to me, three things. three things that we then again can have a lot of nuances to, and that's going to get split down into a lot of different ifs, buts, and everything like that. But in general, we can add it all up to three main areas. Number one, which is probably the first thing that everyone thinks about, is swing technique or mechanics or whatever you want to call it. How you're hitting the golf shots, how you're hitting the full shot, how you're hitting a chip, a pitch, a putt, everything like that. The part that we spend a lot of time on, and a part that I think you can agree with, is very difficult to change. If you've ever gone through a swing change, you know that there is a lot of energy that goes into it. There's a lot of time, there's a lot of effort if you want to see that change made. So it's an important part, but it might be one of the more harder ones to improve simply because how much energy and time it takes to change. Number two is equipment or the gear you're using. Now, that's kind of obvious, right? You have to have your clubs, you have to have your golf ball, you have to have all this stuff going on. And I'd argue that this is probably the easiest of the three things that golf is to actually maximize. If you have a limited amount of money, you can quite easily find the best golf clubs for you, adapted to you and your level, and made simply to help you shoot lower scores. That's what custom fitting is all about. And then, of course, the more money you pay, the more options you get. And even though you're not paying all the money in the world, you can still get some really good stuff working for you, and that is going to help you shoot lower scores. Now, those two are usually the ones that golfers spend a lot of time on. They know a lot about their equipment. They know a lot about what they would like, why they are playing the clubs they're playing, and they know very much about their golf swing. In fact, most golfers I teach, most golfers I coach, their golf swing or their technique is a lot better than the level they are actually playing at. Which kind of, let's say, put it like this. They have a 10 handicap swing, but playing off a 20 handicap. That is very, very common. Because there is a third one that a lot of golfers kind of look away from or don't really respect enough, if we put it like that. And that is playing the game, or what I like to call golf IQ. Decision-making, understanding the game out on the golf course, and what it really comes down to. Because when you set up on the first tee, you're going to hit your first drive or whatever it is, you got the swing you have, you've got the equipment you got, and the only thing is that you can control out on the golf course is your decision making, is your golf IQ, how you decide to play the game. You cannot change your equipment. You can try to change your golf swing, but most golfers have tried that with a very particular result. We know that you'd much rather just keep the swing you've got when you set up to the first tee. So 2 out of the 3 are, without a doubt, when we tee off, that's what we got to work with. And the third one is the one that's always going to affect us, and it's always something that we can control or choose not to control. So to us, the one that we spend the least amount of time on, but is also the biggest multiplier for success, is the golf IQ, or the playing the game aspect. I love to think of it as a video game, or as a character in a video game, because kind of, if you've played video games, or if you haven't, bear with me, but if you have played video games, you can kind of see that when you're choosing a character in particular games, you have these kind of diagrams of what is this player's strength, weaknesses, different attributes that you can kind of increase. And if you think of it like we have golf swing, we have golf equipment, and we have golf IQ. Golf swing is the one that is the most limited. It's limited by your physical abilities, by your previous experiences, by time, practice, everything like that. So the one that is maybe hardest to get up to Rory McIlroy level is going to be your golf swing. Is it important? It's very important, but it's also hard to maximize. Number 2, golf equipment, again, is very easy to maximize in comparison to the other two because it's all about the money. In my part, it's all about the money. Finding what works for you and paying that sum, that's going to be your way of maximizing equipment. Of course, we have a monetary thing going on there. So a lot of us don't have the money, at least I don't, to spend endlessly on my equipment. But we can at least make some good decisions, and that's going to help us go through that. That attribute is going to increase. We might not maximize it, but it's easy to kind of affect quite easily without having to work too much on it. And the third one is the golf IQ. This is how you're playing the game. It's the decisions you're making out on the course, which is the easiest, well, second to the easiest one to actually maximize, and the easiest one to improve without a doubt. I mean, the golf clubs, when you have them, right? That's done. But improving your golf IQ, improving the way you're playing the game on the course, is a game changer for everyone. And this is the kind of the diagram where you can become elite level, you can become PGA Tour, LPGA Tour level by simply working on this part of the game. It's hard to become PGA or LPGA Tour level on the technique, but on your decision making, your way of playing the game, that is going to be a game changer. And that is what the Shoot Lower Score scoring system is all about, helping you improve your golf IQ, helping you work with what you can work with and what you can become as efficient at as the best players in the world without having to have their time, their energy, their money to invest into it. We got other stuff to do. We can't really practice 40 hours a week. We probably working. So if we can do something else, it's going to help us multiply the results, because if we have golf swing, we have golf equipment, and then increase our golf IQ or the decision making out on the course or how we're playing the game, that's going to give us the results in the back end. And if you're not thinking a lot about how you're playing the game right now, trust me, these 10 steps, they're going to be a game changer for you. Before we get into those, I want to share some of the success stories. Because I'm the coach. I've been doing this. I have a story myself about going from about a 15 to a 4 simply by doing a lot of what we're doing in the system. But let's instead listen to Chris. Again, Chris is my good friend. He's wrote the book Shoot Lower Scores about his own experience. Because he wanted to go from an 11 to a 3, and he didn't have time to practice. He was running his own department store. He had small kids at home, a family, and a house, and everything that goes with it. And what he wanted to do is kind of go to a golf coach and say that this is where I'm at. This is what I got to work with, and this is where I want to get to go, or where I want to get to. How do we fix that? And everyone was kind of saying the same thing. Like, we can give you a lesson, we can sell you a lesson package, but we can't really sell you the results. And that bothered Chris, who is a businessman from the heart, and he kind of figured his own way through it. It took 3 years. He went from an 11 to a 11 to 1. He didn't change his swing. He didn't practice because he didn't have the time, but he met his goal. His goal was to be able to qualify for the Open. He almost made it. Or, well, he made it handicap-wise, but he didn't make it to actually sign up for the qualifier, but he made it happen. He wanted to go for the 150th, the Open. He reached his goal by then, and that is an amazing story. This year, one of the golfers I think about is Anders. Anders is a golfer who's been playing golf for 30 years, has plateaued at around 18 handicap. He came to me and he wanted to reach his dream goal, which was a single-digit handicap, which was the 9 pretty much. And all he wanted to do is kind of like, I want to get from this, where I plateau, where I kind of see no progress. I'm putting in the hours, I'm putting in the time, and I want to get all the way to a 9, but I have no idea what we're going to do. He started working with me. We started working with the system, and he reached his dream goal. Not in a year, which was our goal. Our goal was the season of 2024. It took him 6 weeks to go from an 18 to a 9. Because he had the game. He had put in so many hours over the years to reach the potential he had when it came to swinging the golf club or hitting the shots that he wanted to hit. His golf IQ or the decision making he was making out on the course or the way he played the game was off, considering what he had as strengths and weaknesses and everything going on. And when we made those changes, his score just went for it. So now, instead of having a goal of a single digit, because that was reached a couple of weeks ago or months ago by now, he's actually going for a 5 handicap. From an 18 to a 5, that's our goal for Anders this year, and we'll see how that goes. I'm confident that he's going to be able to bring it, considering how quickly he's reaching some results up there. Kenneth is a golfer I coached back home in Sweden, where we did not touch his golf swing at all. He's kind of the same thing like Anders. He had been playing golf for like 20 years, really plateaued and reached the limit at around a 22 to 24. He was going up and down, and he felt like he should be better. His goal was a single-digit handicap, and this was 2 years ago now, and that's not where we got him. Well, we got him there eventually, but what he really got was from a 24 to an 11 in one season. 4 months, he went from a 24 to an 11 without changing his swing, without changing the way he was hitting his shots. All we did was get him to play smarter and utilizing his way of playing the game to get the ball in the hole in less strokes, and look at that. The results came. He had the same experience. Like, he kept improving his swing. He kept improving his short game. But the scores did not improve, and the system became kind of the thing that unlocked his full potential, and we saw a great improvement all over those 4 months. Steady improvements in scores, steady improvements in just becoming more comfortable in how to play the game in order to shoot lower scores, which is our goal for you as well. And we have a lot more clients, players that we've been coaching who have reached great scores, great results on their particular level. And most of it all is that it kind of ends up boils down to the fact that we're focusing a lot less on how you're swinging the golf club and more on getting the results out on the golf course and playing the game, which is a really relieving feeling for a lot of golfers because we are used to the opposite. We're used to spending a lot of time on the golf swing and blaming the golf swing for everything rather than taking a holistic approach to all of it, which is what we know works. That's the quick introduction and a little bit of a story behind it, but also our way of looking at the game of golf. Let's get to the 10 actionable steps that you can go through starting right now if you want to shoot lower scores. So, of course, we're going to start with step number 1. You are playing golf drunk. That's the way Chris likes to call it. I like to call it the fact that you might not be at your best when you're on the golf course when it comes to your mental decisions, but let's go with you're playing golf drunk. This is a little bit of a reality check. This action step is not as much about doing something as much as it is about deciding on one thing. But what we have to realize is that the decisions made on the golf course are not your best. Adrenaline, affection, kind of feelings from the earlier shots, the earlier decisions, everything like that is going to affect the way you're taking your next decision, the decision after that, and all those decisions adds up into your score, right? If you're making a stupid decision off the tee, that is going to increase the likelihood of you hitting it into the woods or in the hazards or whatever it is. That's going to end up messing with you. Whilst smarter decisions made when you're not golf drunk, is definitely going to help you remove those and kind of play a lot of smarter golf. And what we need to understand is the fact that this happens. This happens to all of us. And I mean, I have a lot of golfers who kind of tell me like, no, Max, that's not for me. I'm not doing that. Yes, you are. We're all doing that. Think about it. There's so many times when you most likely before a round has decided that, well, I'm not going to do this because I know that this decision on that hole is stupid. I know that I've done that before. I know that it's going to mess me up, but so I'm not going to do it. And then you get to hole 12 or whatever it is, and you're going to do the exact same thing that you just said that you weren't going to do because you're in a different state of mind, right? We can all agree on that. And the fact is that it's not just us. The pros have the same thing. They're going through it. You can see that on the professional tournament, on the ladies, on the men's side. And come to think about it, the pros, they have their own babysitters for this. That's might be a little bit of an evil one to say, but they have their caddies, right? They're talking with their caddies, and their caddies have a lot of different kind of roles, but one of them is to help them make sure that they're keeping a sane mind and helping them make good decisions. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And if they're having the best players in the world are needing the support and using that support to shoot lower scores, why shouldn't we need some support too? Now, a caddy can be very different things depending on where you live in the world, but let's say you don't have access to a caddy. So it's just you and the golf course, and you want to shoot as low a score as possible, then we need that support too. And that is why we built the shoot lower score system. Now, step number 1 is we're into right now is just accepting the fact that this is the reality we live in. All of us. Again, the pros have it, or the pros are fighting it. So are we. There are a lot of examples of golf pros who are the best people in the world, the best players in the world who are simply losing it at hole 70 of a 72-hole tournament. That has happened, right? We've seen a lot of breakdowns on the 18th hole over the years. And that is nothing else than being golf drunk, getting caught up in the moment, which is a lot easier said than done to change, but still, it's a big part of the game. And the first step is simply acknowledging the fact that this is happening, and this is happening to you, this is happening to me, this is happening to everyone, and being aware of it and working with it. Again, I'm sure if you think back and you think about a hole at your home course or a shot at your home course, you just know that this is not the way to do it, but you still keep doing it over and over and over again. That is kind of the definition of being golf drunk and making those stupid decisions. Because the only reason you're making those stupid decisions is the fact that you're reacting in effect out on the golf course. Affected by, again, last tee shot, last hole. Maybe you did a 3-putt and you're going on to the next tee box and you're pulling out the driver because you feel like I need to take that shot back, and the only way to do that is to hit a hard drive. You're hitting that drive and it's out of bounds. You're making 2, 3, 4 mistakes in a row and you're screwed. So number one is that we simply have to acknowledge the fact that we're playing golf drunk, and that's okay. We just need to be aware of it. And if you don't really accept that, the rest of the system kind of doesn't have as much of a bite to it, because we all come down to that one thing. I've met golfers who told me straight out, like, I don't have this problem. We all do. It's human. Just be aware of it and have that with you when you're going with it the next few steps, and just realize that it's all built around helping you fight that kind of golf drunk or that feeling or state of mind that we have when we're out on the golf course. Step number 2 is what we call playing golf backwards. And what do we mean by that? Well, it's not actually teeing it up on the green and hitting it towards the tee. It's simply that we want to start planning our round or making a plan for how to play good golf. And we're going to start from the green, not the tee. The classical version of playing golf that we call the hit and hope strategy is that you tee it up on the tee. You kind of take a look and see where you want to aim your driver and where you want to aim the big stick. You're hoping for the best and you're just setting it out there. We want to take it the other way around. We want to make sure that we have a plan to play on our level, to make sure that we're playing as good as possible, as often as possible. And we're doing that by starting at the green. And how do we start from the green? Well, we're kind of bowling it down each and every hole. We have 2 putts. I know, depending on what level we are, 2 putts might be too much, but we have to kind of have a general idea, a kind of baseline for everything we're doing. So we're starting with 2 putts on the green. So if I know that I have 2 putts on the green, and let's say it's a par 4 and I'm a scratch golfer, that means that I have 2 strokes to get from the tee to the green, right? So that kind of boils it down to me, rather than looking from the tee and forward, I'm looking from the green. All right, if I want to be here in 2 shots, from where do I need to hit the second shot into the green to make sure I hit the green? And then from there, again, can answer the question, how do I go from the tee to the area where I need to be to hit my second shot? That's all. Let's take a closer look at it from we're doing it from the back. We're playing golf backwards rather than doing it from the tees and the hit and hope strategy that we like to call it. And then we also want to make sure that we're doing this towards our handicap. So I'm a scratch golfer. For me, it's very simple. PAR, which stands for professional average rating, is very usable for me. That's the way I'm supposed to play. Pretty much. We don't have to go into it. But if you're, let's say, having an 18 handicap and you have 1 extra stroke per hole, and we take the same hole, let's say it's a par 4 that is 350 yards. We have 5 strokes to get into the hole on our handicap, right? So we're going to plan for having 5 strokes. 2 strokes on the green. That means that we have 3 strokes to carry or get the ball those 350 yards, which means that we could hit the ball like 120 yards 3 times. We could hit it at 250, 50, and get it up there. And there's a lot of different ways of going about this. All golfers should have different plans because we all have different strengths. We're hitting the ball different lengths. Of course, different par 4s, par 5s, par 3s look different and play different. But going through this motion, going through the planning is what's going to help us get that change, and is what kind of it means to play golf backwards. And that is the thing we're really looking for. So we're building the plan to play at the handicap we're at right now, because reducing our handicap means that we're going to start with playing on the handicap we are at. Now we're boiling it down to 3 kind of ideas, 3 strategies. We have the putter or putting. We have the scoring clubs, which is kind of the clubs that is used to get the ball close to the hole to help us score. And then we have the transport clubs. Think about it like this. Your driver and your wedge does not have the same target, does not have the same assignment. They're going to do different things in your bag, right? And if you have 10 clubs, 14 clubs, 7 clubs, they all have different assignments. They all have their thing to do, and we're going to use that. So we're kind of putting them together, like these are transport clubs, these are the scoring clubs, and of course the putter is the putter. It all helps us to kind of go through this whole planning process a lot easier than having 14 different clubs and thinking about it way too much. It's simple. You need to bring it. We have 2 putts on the green. We have a shot up on the green, which is usually with our scoring club, and then we have the distance we need to take ourselves. That's it. That's the way we teach playing golf backwards. And your action step, your next thing to do to take this even further is that we need to find you a course guide for your home course. I'd love for it to be a physical one, the one that you can write in, just like Chris's book. I don't write in it, but you know what, you can use a pen and pencil, or you can find a digital copy online. But we need that going forward because we're going to use that to make our decisions and start planning our round eventually. So make sure, and after watching this, take a few minutes, figure out if you need to pick up another course guide when you're at the course the next time, or if you can download a digital one from maybe your course's website or whatever it is. We need one of those course guides. Step 3, how far do you hit it? And maybe this kind of explains itself, or it's self-explanatory, and I agree with that. But if you're not measuring, you're guessing. And I meet a lot of golfers who say to me that, Max, I want to shoot the lowest score as possible. I ask them, how far do you carry your 7-iron? And their first response is, I think that it goes this amount. Or maybe they say it should go this distance. And should or think is not knowing, it's guessing. And if we're guessing out on the golf course, we're leaving a lot of shots out on the golf course. You need to know how far you're carrying your clubs on average. Knowing saves you strokes, guessing costs you strokes. You can argue that as much as you want, but a great example is simply look at the pros. If Rory tees off on a tournament, would you think that he knows how far his clubs carry when he goes out? Of course he does. Why wouldn't he? And of course, we're not on the Rory level when it comes to delivering the shot over and over and over again. Our dispersion is going to be a lot bigger than Rory's. But the same kind of principles apply, right? If you and Rory is side to side or by each other's side, you both have a 100-yard shot. You're both supposed to try to hit that ball 100 yards. Is it going to be easier or harder to hit that ball 100 yards if you know which clubs in your bag actually carries 100 yards or close to 100 yards? Of course it's easier. Without a doubt. Yeah, but Max, I can hit it 70 yards, I can hit it 120 yards. Yeah, of course, we're all different. We're all on different levels, and that's fine. But having that average, knowing how far your numbers carry on average, your clubs carry on average, is a lot more than not knowing at all. And that gives us a lot of information, a lot of opportunity. And the reason we only care about the carry numbers is very simple. Let's say you and Rory stand side by side again, 100 yards, and then 70 to 90 yards, there's a hazard. There's a water hazard there. It's kind of hard to roll the ball through a hazard, right? If you land it at 70, it's just going to go straight into the water, and that's where it's going to stay. Of course, there's different things that's going to happen once you hit the ball. Once it lands, you have no control of it. But we want to know how far you carry it to make sure that we can avoid traps, that we can reach the greens, and everything like that. So we want to know how far we carry on average. We want to know the carry distances simply because that is going to help us control the ball out on the golf course. And doing this, I'm going to warn you, I love the fact that what you really should be doing, and you're going to get this as an action step, is to do the distance test. And what the distance test means is that you sign up with a kind of, you borrow a TrackMan, or maybe you go to TrackMan or Top Tracer range where you can measure your distances and you measure your carry distances. Usually the way I do it is that I hit 5 golf balls. When I've hit 5, if all 5 are somewhat good, I remove the longest one, the shortest one, and then I take the average of the 3. That is simple, to the point, and easy to follow. And you're going to find a video connected to this a file connected to this that I use to kind of fill out to help golfers have this information. And the most important thing doing this is to leave your ego at the door, especially if you're a man. Like, I know how much it sucks thinking that you're going to hit the ball this distance and you realize that you're hitting it 10 meters shorter or 10 yards shorter, but that's fine. We don't care. We put no valuation into how far your balls go. We put valuation into the fact that we know how far that is. Your golf course does not ask you, here you have to hit a 7-iron. It says that here is a 140-yard shot, hit a 140-yard shot. Whatever numbers on the club, no one cares except our ego. So leave the ego at the door. Just get to know your distances and see how your game improves. It's simple as that. So the action step for this, step number 3, is simply to go do a distance test as soon as possible. Know that if you stop watching right here, you go do the distance test and never watch another video, you've still improved your game. Like, there's so much strength and help from just knowing your carry distances that it's ridiculous. So action step, go do the distance test as soon as possible and use that to help yourself play better golf. Step 4, how do you hit it? So we already covered the distances, right? But if you're like me, you're not hitting all the shots straight. In fact, you probably should not try to hit the ball straight. In fact, most golfers get this wrong. Most golfers think that kind of hitting the ball straight is the go-to, is the way we all should be playing golf. The problem with that is that you're kind of making golf a lot harder trying to hit it straight. There are so small differences between a straight shot and one that goes off to the right or to the left. Most golfers have a tendency. Most golfers have a ball flight that they tend to also think is their miss. For me, I've been curving my ball to the left with a draw or a hook or snap hook or whatever you want to call it, more or less for the last 25 years of my golf career, which is fine. I just aim to the right. I use it. I try to hit it as straight as possible, but I always want to see it curve to the left. It does a lot of things for me, but what I've realized is that is what is making me consistent. Knowing that it's going to turn to the left, not knowing how much, of course, I'm not a robot, but knowing it's going to turn to the left like 8 out of 10 times is what is making us consistent. And the same goes for you watching this. You're most likely, if you're not thinking about your swing, if you're not trying to do anything, you're most likely hitting it one way or the other 8, 7 out of 10 times. And that is not a miss. That is not that, oh no, I messed up, it didn't go straight. That is your ball flight. That is what we want to work with. We can't never kind of remove one side. We have golfers who wants to feel like if I just curve it to the left, I'll never miss it to the right. That's not going to happen. We're going to hit it on all sides. But having a very clear idea of what your ball tends to do is more than good enough to have you shoot lower scores and have the ball in play, hit more fairways, hit more greens, and start working with your game. That is why we need to make sure that we know how we're hitting it, not how to hit it, but how we're hitting it. And that's going to help you realize that you're a lot more consistent than you think. One of the big asks, a lot of golfers say to me, Max, I want to become more consistent. Yeah, one of the big things to do that is actually to start working with your ball flight, which means that if you're having a curve to the right, you let that curve to the right. You'll use that to your advantage and you just aim more to the left and have that work for you. If the more you're trying to fix that tendency you have, the harder it's going to be to actually hit a good shot because it's going to be a lot more time consuming. It's going to take a lot more energy if we want to do that. It might be worth it. And yes, there are situations where if you curve it too much, think like a 90 degree, you're losing a lot of you're losing a lot of distance and you're losing a lot of control. Yeah, that's too much. But you'd be surprised at how much you can actually curve the golf ball and still have it under control. So what I would like you to do is find your dispersion patterns. If you've ever been in a TrackMan simulator or something like that, or maybe you've seen on the tours, they kind of show you the dispersion. So if you're hitting 100 shots, you're getting those 100 marked out, and then you get an oval around them to kind of show you this is your tendency. We want to find that tendency for us. And if it's like me, I tend to miss to the left. What mine's going to be short right and then slowly going to the left. That's just the way it looks. And then if I realize that that's the tendency with all clubs in my bag, then I know how that oval looks like and I know how I get there. Because I know that I can place that oval or I can place that circle or whatever you want to call it with my dispersion patterns on the place where I want the ball to go, and then I can kind of think my way back through that. So we want to use the dispersion patterns. We want to realize that if you're hitting 100 shots, you're not going to ever get those balls to land in the same spot. The better, the smaller the dispersion pattern, the better. And the better the golfer, the lower the handicap, the smaller the dispersion is going to be. But no matter if it's big or small, we want to understand how does our look like and how can we use that to hit the fairway more often, greens more often, and of course take that into consideration because it is a part of our game. So what I would like you to do as the next action step is to simply find out your dispersion pattern with all the clubs in your bag. Because some players actually have different ones, or of course they're going to be bigger the longer the club, but also find out how you're hitting. How are you getting the ball there? Are you curving it from right to the left, left to the right, or are you hitting it somewhat straight? Some players have a tendency to hit the ball to the left with the shorter irons, and the longer the clubs get, they're hitting it to the right. Nothing right or wrong here. We're going to find your ball flight. So get out there, and I tend to want to do this together with the distance test because I'm getting the distance test from the TrackMan or whatever it is, and I get the information on my dispersion pattern. So I can do them both at the same time and level up your game like that. Step 5, and we're back to planning. Planning your golf game is a game changer. Again, if we're thinking about this golf drunkenness going on out on the course, if we can start having a plan and start following that plan, that is the best way to fight the golf drunk golfer. So what we need in order to plan our golf or plan our game is a course guide, which I asked you to get, and of course the dispersion patterns and carry distances. If you haven't done that yet, you can still start doing this in theory. Then just go through the distance test, the dispersion pattern, and kind of add up to the data and make sure that the plan you've made it works out and that you haven't made too many mistakes because of how you might think you're hitting the ball or anything like that. So if you haven't done the test just yet, go ahead with this anyway, but adapt it when you have more information. So we're going to start playing golf backwards, and we're going to put that out into our our course guide. So you need to know what's your par, and par stands for professional average rating. Think about that. If you're not a professional, you don't really have to care about par. Well, if it's par 4, par 3, par 5, you need to care about your par. So if I have 2 extra shots on each hole, my par or a par 3 for me turns into par 5 for you, or par 6 or par 7. We want to use that when we're making our plan. Because if you have a par, your par is 5, all we need to do is build a plan about how am I supposed to get into the hole in 5 strokes. Because if we're up there each and every hole having a shot at going on our par, that also means that we're up there having a shot to shoot lower than our par. And that is how we improve our game. We don't want to build the plan for, like, if I'm a 20 handicap and I want to be a single digit, don't start planning for a single digit handicap right now. You're not at that level yet. Don't try to play at a level you're not at, because that's just going to cost you. So we need to figure out our par on the golf course, which is the par of the course and our handicap. And through that, we're going to realize on which holes we have extra strokes, and we're going to use that when we're setting up our playing golf backgrounds plan. Now, remember, we're starting at the green, 2 shots on the green. We have the scoring club shot up on the green, and then the distance from that shot, which is the 3rd shot, to the tee is what we need to cover and how we kind of need to figure out how to go forward from there. And of course, that means that we have to take into consideration hazards. We have to take into considerations if there is a dog leg or anything else that we kind of have to take into consideration. And just the kind of gist of it, because a lot of golfers listen to this and they feel like, well, Max, I don't like where this is going. You're going to tell me that I'm not supposed to hit my driver. I want to hit my driver. I don't like playing golf this way. And trust me, you can hit your driver as much as you want if you can prove to me using data, which means your carry distances and your dispersion patterns, that it's a good option. Then I love it. If you can carry that bunker, if you're going to do it because that is going to be the widest part of the fairway, we know that being aggressive off the tee and conservative into the greens or into our scoring zones is a big thing to help us shoot lower scores. So I would like you to be as aggressive as you can, as often as you can off the tee. But it cannot be in a way that's going to make you have like a 20% chance of success. It's going to be in a way that kind of gives you the best opportunity to succeed. Which means that being aggressive might be hitting a 6-iron off the tee. Because hitting something longer than that is simply stupid because you're putting way too much into play. But being aggressive might also be hitting a driver very often because you're doing the opposite. Maybe you're hitting it past any hazards or whatever it is. It all depends on you, how far you hit the golf club, and everything else that goes into making your plan. But think of it like being aggressive off the tee, conservative into the green or into the scoring zones, while taking hazards into consideration. Because remember, the best thing to ruin your score is to lose strokes off the tee, lose shots out of bounds or not being able to find the ball. So step 1 is building a plan that's going to put you in play, transport you forward, get the ball on the green, putt twice, and move to the next hole. We're going to work that backwards. And we are going to go into a lot more on this inside of the community, inside of the course, or the in-depth masterclass course. But number 1, we need to realize 2 shots on the green, 1 shot up on the green, and then we know how much else we got going on, how to get there as aggressively as possible without being stupid. Think about your golf IQ. So what I'd like you to do now is simply plan your home course, all 18 holes from the back to the front. Playing golf backwards, starting with 18, 17, 16, you get the point. And don't think about it like, well, this is usually what I do. Think about it like a new way. How are you supposed to use your strokes, using your par and your way of working with it, to move your ball forward and get it where you want it to go in as safe a manner as possible while still maintaining your handicap? that is your option, or sorry, that is your action and your step to do today. And again, if you have the carry distance and dispersion results, that's great. If not, do a qualified guess and then back it up with data once you have that data. This is going to be a game changer. And step 2 to all of this is following the plan. Because remember, you're golf drunk out there. Even if you have a plan, you're still going to be golf drunk. So keeping to the plan is one of the most difficult things to do. If you're saying, I'm going to hit a 6-iron off the tee on number 7, if you played poorly on number 6, I'm going to bet you that you're going to have a lot of internal dialogue going like, nah, it's time, I need to pull out the driver, otherwise I'm screwed. You're not. You have a plan to go on your handicap, and even though you're going to mess up that plan sometimes, try to follow that plan from 1 to 18, number 1 off the tee as often as possible. But to do that, you need to start with making that plan, and that's your action step right now. Step number 6 is hitting it soft. And what we mean by hitting it soft is simply we want to find our way around the golf course where we don't have to murder the ball with the driver, we don't have to murder it with any other shot, and we want to use the smallest motion possible to get the ball where we would like it to go. So what that would mean in practice is simply that if you could reach with an 8-iron, probably swinging the 7-iron, but swinging it smoother, swinging it softer, is going to get you there more consistently. And we know that in general, amateurs tend to miss the green short. So much rather club up, hit one more club than you think you might need to in order to be able to swing it softer. If you didn't know, Tommy Fleetwood does this pretty much all the time. He usually takes one more club than he needs in order so that he can swing it softer and keep control. We can do the exact same thing. And that goes for all the shots. That also goes for the shots up on the green. So if you're doing a chip or a pitching motion, using the club that's going to give you the smallest possible motion is going to help you become more consistent, because a smaller motion is easier to control. A softer motion is easier to control once you start using it. So we want to have the smaller motion to, just like Tommy Fleetwood, get that consistency. You'd be surprised at how much easier it is to be consistent with your irons when you're swinging at 80% rather than 110. Or maybe 90% rather than 110. Just being smoother, smaller motions, everything like that is going to help us get more in control and become more consistent. And we want that, right? Again, there is a lot to it. We want to keep it soft and low as much as possible around the greens, roll the ball to the hole. We want to make the smallest motion as possible. It's very simple in theory, but we tend to be geared to something else. We tend to be geared towards wanting to hit it as hard as possible, as cool as possible, and make it as difficult as possible. Because if we succeed with a difficult shot, it's going to make us feel good. We don't want to have those. We want to play the numbers, right? We want to make sure that we have the biggest chance of success, and that is going to be from hitting it soft and making as small a motion as possible. Rather club up when you're going for the greens and make sure that that's going to help us become more consistent. So your action step today is head out to the range or the practice area and see how soft, small you can hit the different types of shots and still get the ball where you want it to go. If you can hit a 7-iron, I'm pretty sure you can hit a soft 6 the same distance, right? Might take some practice, but I bet it's going to work. If you're hitting a 6-degree wedge, I bet if you have some green to work with, you can have a shipping motion with a 9-iron and get the ball to the same place, or maybe even closer. Get out there, practice it, and start using it in your golf game. You'd be surprised how many shots you can pick up. Step 7, get it to the bucket. I love this way of kind of looking at putting because it's all there is to it. What we would like you to do in order to shoot lower scores is actually to stop trying to make putts. Close enough is money. Close enough is what's going to get you lower scores. This is going to sound mental to a lot of you. I get that. But what I mean by it is simply that if you have a 12-yard putt, chances that you're making that putt is very small. No matter how good you hit it, chances of that ball going in, very small. But chances of that putt leading to a 3-putt, very big. Because if we're hitting it too hard, one of those kind of, well, at least it had a shot going in because it rolled past the hole and then went on like 6 feet, that is going to mess with us. That's going to give you a return that's going to, well, usually mean a 3-putt. So what I would like you to do is kind of picture yourself a bucket around the hole. So it's the zone around the hole. The distance of the length of your putter around the hole, that is your bucket. As long as you are outside of that bucket, you want to get inside of that bucket. That's all there is to it. Just visualizing that bucket around the hole and getting the ball inside of it. If it is inside of it, or rather like this, if it starts outside of it and it gets inside of it, you have succeeded, because chances are you're going to make the next putt, and that is going to keep your scores low. The kind of egomaniac need to hit it past the hole is going to cost you a lot more than that, and we know that to be true. We're taking a deep dive into this in the masterclass, but just shifting this focus to getting it inside of the bucket, so changing your mindset on putting and actually shipping as well, because if you're outside around the green, getting it to the bucket is going to be your target rather than getting it in the hole. It's going to give you bigger target, of course, but it's also going to help you keep the shots closer to the hole, and through that, decrease the number of putts you're hitting. So think of it like a bucket around the hole. The size of the length of your putter is the size of the bucket around the hole. Just get it close and then get it in. Of course, if you're 2 yards out, we want to try to get it there, but don't be too mad if it doesn't go in, because we know chances of making it is not 100%, right? So getting it close, getting it inside of the bucket, and use that bucket, visualizing it when you're practicing and playing, is going to be a game changer for you to shoot lower scores. Step number 8, never aim at the pin. Might sound mental, but let me explain. Never aim at the pin, because we want to use your ball flight, right? If we already covered the dispersion in your ball flight, we want to use that ball flight. So if you have a left to right tendency, if you're aiming at the pin, you're going to start at the pin and then you're going to end up right of it. And in fact, we're going to take this an step even further. We have the kind of circle or the oval with your pattern. Like if you're hitting 109 irons, they're not going to end up all in the same place. So they're going to be in that oval. We want to place that oval in the safest place possible, which means that from the tee, we want to place it in a way that the ball is either in the fairway or in the rough without being in a hazard or without creating trouble. In fact, you might even want to place that oval out in the rough completely, because it's going to get you out of the bunkers or maybe even the water hazards, because that is going to give you the best opportunity to keep going. And when you're going for the green, even more important, simply is that we want to put as much of that oval on the green as possible, which usually means that we want to put that oval on the biggest part of the green. Don't care whatsoever where the pin is. We don't care. We want the ball on the green, because getting it on the green is going to be the most powerful thing to help us shoot lower scores. Again, amateur golfers are going to have a pretty long first putt, and it doesn't really matter if that's 12 yards, 16, or 18 yards, because we're usually going to have about the same amount of strokes to get it in. The most important part is the fact that it's on the green. Get it on the green is one of the things we teach here, that it's so important. And to help you do that, aim for the big parts of the green and get it in. Give yourself the opportunity to putt. So aim for the biggest part of the green, aim for the biggest part of the fairways, and take your ball flight into consideration, which means that if you're like me, you're curving the ball from the right to the left, I'm not setting up aiming down the middle of the fairway. I'm setting up aiming down the right side of the fairway and making sure that curve gets the ball where I want it to go. And the same thing goes for hitting it to the green. I'm aiming for the right side of the green. I might even be aiming it right of the green. I might not even be going for the green at all, because I know what my ball flight tends to do, tends to curve back and should be hitting the green either way. We use that to our advantage. Without aiming for the pin, we're hitting more fairways, we're hitting more greens, and that is what's going to save us strokes. And to be honest, it's for suckers aiming for the pin. A famous quote by Tiger, he usually says that he's really aggressive to his conservative spots on the greens. He's not aiming for the pin. He's aiming for his conservative spots, and to those, he's very aggressive. I would like you to do the same thing. Those conservative spots, of course, gets bigger for us, but if we're placing that kind of circle, if we're doing this in the course guide, we want to place that circle or that oval on the biggest part of the green, and then the pin is going to be where the pin is going to be. Sometimes it's right dead in the middle of that oval. Sometimes it's not. We don't care. We want to play the long game. We're going to shoot lower scores as often as possible, and through that, make smarter decisions. And aiming at the pin is for suckers. And if it works for Tiger not to aim at the pins, maybe it works for us too, right? So, action step, stop aiming at the pins, start looking at your course guide, and I would actually like you to do this. So if you're filling out your course guide, take a closer look right now. Where did you put the circles for your tee shots and your shots towards the green? Are they really where the fairway is the biggest, or where the greens are the biggest, to give you the best opportunity to succeed? Or did you do anything or something else? That is a little bit of the hidden hope strategy still living inside of you, which is fine. But think about it a little bit differently if you're going back and taking a closer look at it. Because if we can move those ovals to the biggest and safest places, that is going to save us a lot of strokes. Step 9, scoring clubs. Remember, I talked about the transport clubs getting us forward, the scoring clubs getting us on the green, and then of course the putter. Now the scoring clubs are, to me, of course, maybe one of the most, or two of the most important clubs in the bag. And we're making this to make everything a lot easier. Again, you might have 14 clubs in your bag. That is a lot of options. And one of the things to make your golf IQ work for you is the fact that we actually have to make decisions all the time. And the less decisions I have to make, the easier it is to make good decisions more often. And one of those things is your scoring clubs. If you have 4 wedges, if you're like me, you're going to a shot around the green and thinking, maybe I should take that one, that one, that one, or that one. When if you kind of narrow it down and just like a lot of the pros do, they have one club they're using for a lot of the same strokes or the same shots, just because they are more comfortable with it. They practice with that particular club. They got the experience with that particular club. They're going to use that, and I want to do the same for you. So what I would recommend you using is decide one club that you're going to use for bunker shots, high pitch shots, flop shots, everything like that. And I would like you to choose one club that you're going to use for your ship and runs and everything like that to a certain extent. Of course, there are some kinda, and that's when I put in the word kinda, when I say you only have 2 kinda clubs to work with, but you would like to have 2 default go-to options. Then you might make a little bit of a difference if you got a long ship, you want to make a smaller motion like we talked about. Maybe you're going to club up a little bit. Maybe, there is a bit of a nuance to it, but we have to start somewhere and find that baseline, and that's going to be 2 clubs. One for the high shot, one for the low shot. For me, those are my 9-iron and my 60-degree. And I would like you to make up your mind. There should be the go-to. It should never be a discussion on the course which one of these you're hitting and why, because they should be ingrained in you. And then if I'm hitting a bump and run, if there's nothing special going on, I'm going to do that with my 9-iron. Good. Then we know. If I'm hitting a bunker shot, that's going to be a 60-degree. If I'm hitting a flop shot, that's going to be my 60-degree. If I'm hitting a pitch shot, that's going to be my 60-degree, because that's the club I'm used to. That's going to bring us confidence, and with that, results and better strokes around the greens. So make that decision and start working with them. Like, this is my scoring club. This is my low scoring club, my scoring club for the lower shots, and this is my scoring club for the higher shots. Emphasize those when you practice. Emphasize those when you're out on the course, and check out when your golf game and your short games especially is going to improve by simply getting more used to the clubs we're using and making the decision making so much easier, rather than having to always kind of go through the same, is it an 8 or 9? Is it a 54 or a 60? Like, make the decision. There is no right or wrong. We just want to make sure that we have that decision made to make the process a lot easier for you, because that is going to help you save a lot of strokes out on the golf course. I promise you 10 steps. This is number 10. And when we're done with that, trust me, your golf game is getting a lot better. Step number 10 is lining up your putts. Now, what we really mean by lining up the putts comes back to one thing. Or actually, it comes back to 2 things. But number 1 is that the test we've seen is that 96% of golfers can't aim their putter. 96% of golfers aim one way and hit the ball another. Or rather, they think that they're setting up for in one direction and then they're actually setting up another. Is that going to affect your game negatively? Yeah. That is why lining up your putts becomes so important at step number 1, to help you line the ball where you actually want it to go. So I'm all for, and we're all for, lining your ball with 3 lines, because it's going to make it even easier for you to see and line up. And that's step number 1, helping you to set up and aim for where you actually want the ball to go. Awesome. Step number 2 that the 3 lines give you is actually a way to take a closer look at the way you're hitting your putts. You're always going to be able to kind of look at that ball roll and see what the lines are up to, and you can evaluate whether or not you hit that ball in the line you would like it to go, or if you messed up a little bit. Sometimes you're hitting a bad putt. That's okay. But knowing if you're hitting a bad putt or not, is going to help you actually improve your putting. Did I miss it because I misread it, or did I miss it because I didn't hit a good putt? Is 2 very important questions to be able to answer. And if you're just putting with a white ball with no kind of marks on it, you can never really answer that. You can just have your feeling, and your feelings are never really a good thing, especially not out on the golf course, as we tend to do certain things. So line your ball with 3 lines, and watch your game improve. I mean, it's ridiculous. But remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like the lines, well, we have kind of gear for that, right? So they're going to be perfect, but don't kind of get stuck in the idea that these lines always have to be perfect. They're supposed to be an aid for you to aim better and hit the putt better. They don't need to be, it's not brain science. It doesn't have to be perfect on each small degree. If it's half a degree off, that's fine. But think as a way to help you aim and help you set up to succeed with your putting. And getting that to start working for you. And I mean, hands down, you're going to realize the first time you're doing this, how big of a help it is. It might feel a little bit different because you're not used to seeing the lines. Don't bother. Like, just work through it. It's well worth it. And the more you start working with it, the more you're going to realize how powerful it is. And just to make sure that you're hitting the ball where you want it to go, and you're making sure if you're actually doing that or not. Very powerful things, which is definitely going to help you get the ball to the bucket more often. And when you're inside of the bucket, make more of those shorter putts that we all dread, or most of us dread. And if I were you, the 10th step, lining up your putts, the action step is to order one of those kits. I use the Short Game Gains one. There is a lot of different ones out there, but Short Game Games is the best, at least the way I see it. And get it, put one in your bag, maybe have one at home. And my always coming back to recommendation is the fact that you should actually be drawing maybe a dozen or two at a time, so you're not hitting two balls out of bounds and around, and all of a sudden you don't have any drawn up when you need to hit a provisional, and as a result, you're all of a sudden playing without the lines. So make sure that you're taking the time to kind of draw lines on the balls when you're doing it, so you have your bag stacked out, because it's going to be a very important thing. Now, those are the 10 first steps. Those are the crash course steps that you can take right now to start taking action to shoot lower scores. Believe me, if you're just doing those 10, you pause this video right now, you never watch anything else, you are going to improve as a golfer, without a doubt. We have so much proof of that. It's ridiculous. You're going to become a much better golfer. But if you want to become the best golfer possible, I would recommend you keep watching, because we have some good stuff coming up just for you to understand that right now you have 3 options. Number 1, is to do the same thing you always have. Like most golfers usually tend to do. Don't change anything, and you're going to get the same results you always had. But I think that you watching this video right now means that you're not one of these people. Like, you're not one of the golfers who want the same result. You want something new. That is why you found your way here. And starting to do it is a great way of actually changing. But this is always an option. We had fun, a couple of minutes of fun, and that's it. But I would like you to recommend you to at least adapt parts of the system. We had 10 steps. Some of them easier, some of them harder. If you adapt half of them, I promise you're going to be a better golfer. You're going to understand much more of the game. You're going to see the game a lot more differently than you did when we started. And you're going to improve, without a doubt. So you don't have to do all of it. Just doing some of it's going to be a big step in the right direction. But of course, if I were you, I would recommend you working with the system. Again, go through the 10 action steps and become a better golfer, without a doubt. Like, it's a multiplying effect going on. And doing that, you're going to become unstoppable. The best part about having a systematic approach to scoring is the fact that if you're a 20 handicap right now, you want to get to a 10, and you set up the system to get you there. Once you get there, you can do the same thing again, just to reach the next goal. That is why we had golfers like Anders, who's reached his dream goal in just 6 weeks. And then we can do the same thing again to reach his next goal that just recently wasn't even available to him. Or why it's so important to work with golfers of all levels. So these are the options you have, and it's all up to you, right? The question I like to ask is simply, is it important enough? Because a lot of golfers I coach, it kind of comes down to this, and this is very human, right? That, well, do you really want to shoot lower scores, or do you want to keep doing the way you're doing it right now? Because that is all up to you. I'm telling you what you need to do in order to shoot lower scores and unlock your full potential. It's up to you whether you want to do it or not. You can do the new thing and the thing that we know works, or you can keep doing the old thing. I'm fine either way. It's all up to you. But if you want to shoot lower scores, this is it. And again, how do we know it works? Well, we have Anders, went from the 18 to 9 in 6 weeks. And if you want to read his kind of testimonial here, his experience so far, it's been great, and I just love working with Anders. We're going to see some great improvements going forward. And of course, Chris, who went from an 11 to 1 in 3 years. We talked about him. the author of the book. So Chris is the guy on the right. You probably recognize me on the left. This is during the Challenge Tour event back in 2022 in Alerum in the south of Sweden, where I got invited on a wild card to play in the Challenge Tour event. For context, I hadn't been playing for the last 15 years professionally, but I got invited and I wanted to do it as good as possible. So what I did was that I realized I needed my own babysitter, just like the pros. I needed a caddy that could help me keep my mind straight and everything like that. And who better than that than one of my best friends and the guy who helped create the scoring system. So he became my caddy and we spent 4 days down there and I played some amazing golf. I hit 14 of 14 fairways and I hit 15 of 18 greens on the first day and I hit 12 fairways and 13 greens on the second day, which is for me in that level of competition is a big thing, right? It's a big thing. My putting sucked. That's all on me. And if you've played just competition golf, you know how the feelings get outside of your skin. And my putt, I think I averaged like 44 putts. It was madness. So I didn't make the cut. But my long game and the game from the tee to the green by playing golf backwards was on point. Yeah, the other people hitting drivers and everything like that. I used the dispersion patterns. I used my carry distances. I used all of this to take my way around the course as simply as possible and as safe as possible to help me shoot as low a score as possible. Again, had I putted somewhat normally, those would have been some great rounds. But what it really did was prove to me and to Chris that this system also works on the best level. Chris today works with, for amongst others, he has a lot of communication with Colin Morikawa's coach, who also testifies to the fact that what really makes Morikawa stick out is the fact that he's so good with his decision making, his golf IQ when he plays. And what we're teaching in the system is the same thing that they're so good at, which makes the whole thing even more impressive. We know it works, but how do we make it work? If you're looking at this and you want to make the changes, you want to get the results you want to get, how do you make that process? Well, number one, we covered it already, but I want to hit on it twice because to me it's so important. You can make it work. You decide if you make it work. And the thing it usually comes down to is how important it is for you. Do you want to shoot lower scores or do you want to do what you've always been doing and hoping that it's going to help you? If it's important enough, you're going to make the changes and you're going to get the results. I've helped a lot of golfers. I've also worked with a lot of more golfers and some of them weren't interested in making the changes needed and the results stayed the same. That's just the way it is. That's just how we're looking at golf and that tends to be how we as humans work. So if it's not important enough, that's fine. But you're going to ask yourself, what does it mean to you to get those lower scores? What I tend to hear quite often is the fact that people say to me, well, Max, I don't want to play golf like that because that is no fun. And to us, shooting lower scores is fun. The reason we're playing golf is to shoot as low a score as possible, as often as possible, and becoming as good as possible. Fun is shooting lower scores to us. You can define fun differently, and that is all up to you. And if your fun is for you is hitting the driver all over the place and not really thinking about what you're doing, go for it. I'm all for it. Just be aware that that's not the best way to shoot lower scores. And again, that's fine. We all have different ways of seeing the game, which is awesome. It's beautiful. And we know the system works, but you have to put in the work. Like, we're here to help you inside of the community, inside of Max Golf Academy, Max Golf Premium. We're here to help you reach your goals. But we cannot do the work for you. We can help you do the work, but we're simply guiding you the way through, and then you have to put in the work. If you're putting in the work, the success is going to come. That's awesome. If you want to have the lower scores quicker, what you can do is inside of the community is be a little bit active, and you can unlock, when you level up from level 1 to level 2, you're going to unlock more knowledge. You're going to level up the full masterclass, which is like 4.5 hours when you're going in depth on each and every part. If you want to access that, you're going to level up the score or reach the scoring clubs masterclass, some practices. There's a lot of stuff you can unlock simply by being active in the community. And why we're doing it like this is that we want to see that you're putting in the work before you're getting the next step. Again, you've gone through the quick start guide. We want to get you started as quickly as possible because we want to get you shooting lower scores, and then you can dive even deeper into it when we start seeing those results, which is awesome. And if you do all the 10 steps in this quick start guide, and before anything else, when you're done with all 10, send me a DM here on the platform. write me the message, mission max, I looked at it all, mission accomplished. And let's have a talk about how you're finding the system, what we can do for you, and how we can make you reach your lower scores even quicker. So I'm in the DMs. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And of course, the biggest shortcut to success is just working with the system. In fact, you don't have to learn anything else. Working with these 10 steps, applying them to your game and doing it over and over and over again and adapting it to work with it, that's going to give you the success you need. That's going to be the biggest shortcut. Then you can get the support, you can get our help to get there, but all in all, working with the system is going to be the biggest shortcut to success. That's simply, we know it works, and it's going to work for you as well. So, summary, golf is 3 things: technique, equipment, and golf IQ. One of them is you can easily improve quickly, and that is the golf IQ part. And the 10 action steps is all about helping you become a smarter golfer and reach the results you would like. In the shoot lower score system, we have 30 steps in total. You just got the 10 starter ones. Like, again, if you do these 10 and do them over and over and over again and keep working with them, you're going to improve your game a lot. And then there's another 20 we can apply and go through to help us reach our goals even quicker. And to be honest with you, it's all designed to help any golfer within, pretty much any golfer to be able to cut their handicap in half if they follow all the 30 steps. And again, we have some evidence of that actually working for golfers on all different levels and different ages and everything like that. But these are the 10 first steps, and we got to start somewhere. Start with going through these 10. And the last question, are you going to make it work? Is it important enough, and are you going to put in the work? Because I promise you, you put in the work, we're going to be here to help you, and we're going to help you reach your goals and your dream of reaching that handicap goal, that scoring goal, whatever it is. If it's important to you, you're going to make this work, and we're going to be happy to help you along the way. So if you've gone through the videos, you tried it out, and you feel like, well, this is really something, I want to tell the world about it, I would appreciate if you can leave a testimonial by going to testimonial.maxpersongolf.com, and it's linked down below as well. Record a little video, tell us about what your experience was, and in fact, you can leave a testimonial and win some special prizes, and I'll make it worth your while. You're helping us improve our product, you're helping us improve what we're helping golfers with, and you can win on it too, which is awesome. And I love to end on this quote because I'm using it so often when I'm talking to golfers. Remember, you have some options right now, and insanity is doing the same thing over and over, again, expecting different results. Golfers love to do this. They're going through swing changes. They're buying new equipment. They're not seeing a result. And then they're doing the same thing again. This is something different. This is, for you, who's already put in the hard work. Using the system is definitely going to help you reach your goals. So let's stop doing the insane thing and start doing the same thing. Let's start changing what we can change, what we can control, and let's help each other shoot lower scores and improve our golf game. So let's get to work. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you inside of the community.